National Council on Privatization approves completion of Zungeru Power Plant concession. Vehicle registration will boost government revenue profile. Plug leakages, says Finance Minister. TUC charges federal government to pay 35,000 naira wage award immediately. Nigeria will meet 1.7 million barrels per day oil production benchmark for 2024. Budget says Minister of State Petroleum. Asian market mix as Japan Tankan survey beats expectation. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I'm Musa Bakar, your guide. Well, let's now bring you up to speed with business development. The National Council on Privatization has approved the completion of the concession for the 700 megawatt Zungeru hydroelectric power plant. It directed the opening of dedicated account at the Debt Management Office for the payment of the concession fees by the concessionaire. Consequently, Vice President Kashim Shettima, who chairs the council, directed the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Yemi Kaduso, to commence the account opening at the Debt Management Office as the Bureau of Public Enterprises proposed. The decision was reached at the council's maiden meeting in the Vice President's conference room of the State House.
Council must meet as regularly as possible so that where we need to reform institutions, we do so with dispatch. Where we need to sell them or concession them or put them in arrangements that will bring more value to Nigerians, also that will be done with dispatch so that the assets are put to better use, incomes and employment are generated from them, and national prosperity is enhanced.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, says it has suspended application for new loans under its Development Finance Intervention Funds. The Apex Bank announced this decision in a circular to the chief executives of banks signed by Acting Director Development Finance Department, Saad Hamidu. Among other things, the CBN said it has commenced pullback from direct development finance and interventions, adding that the banks are now responsible for recovery of loans granted so far under the Development Finance Intervention Funds. The CBN Governor Olayemi Kaduso had said the Apex Bank's total disbursements under its development finance intervention reached 10 trillion naira, but he did not give details of the unrecovered amount as at date. Nigeria's revenue performance has been said to be encouraging, has going in the right direction. For instance, between 2022 and 2023, there has been an increase in federally collected revenue as governments strive to maintain the trend. The Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, has charged stakeholders at a one-day sensitization seminar on National Vehicle Registry to leave no stone unturned to block loopholes, state leakages, and increase revenue that should rightfully go into government coffers.
Completion of technical integration with the Central Motor Registry, CMR, of the Nigerian Police Force and the National Vehicle Information System of FRSC, the Federal Road Safety Commission, as well as strengthening of the collaborative effort with the National Automated Development Council.
Stakeholders agree collaboration in enforcing a centralized platform for vehicle information will help policy making to get a cutting edge to ease and help to recover government revenue.
All the agencies interconnected can share data.
I'd like to shed more light on the issues around the proposed recapitalization of banks in Nigeria. As an economist, Yusho Aliu, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Well, to begin, let's just have your thoughts of the primary motive behind the proposed recapitalization of banks. But before we go into that, I would like you to make your own assessment of the new direction that the central banks wants to now go.
Recapitalization of banks in the world is a test exercise to examine the stability of the bank and also to check the performance of the bank and the prospect of the economy. It has happened in 2005 when we had 89 banks and it was reduced to 24 as a result of hiking or beefing the capital base of the bank from 2 billion to 20 billion. It was a good experience for Nigeria because that is why today the National Deposit Insurance has done a lot in taking care of people's savings and deposits, especially that Nigeria has experienced a very disturbing situation prior to recapitalization of 2005. If you check the period 2005 to date, it's a very long period that requires certain adjustment as a result of the changing in macroeconomic indices in the economy and with the challenge the central bank is facing. Financial system stability is very, very necessary in establishing proper economic growth. If you are to check the financial situation of our banks and you take the dreams and aspiration of the economy, there is need for the central bank to make an intervention and check the financial stability situation of the institution, as well as to check the confidence that we are trying to build in for new investors to put hand in it. And that is why I think recapitalization of bank at this time is very crucial. Not only crucial, my attention goes to looking at the size of the population. When you have above 200 million Nigerians who are basically doing different businesses, taken from the actual economy, that is looking at the agriculture, the manufacturing, and other micro, medium enterprises. And when you take the challenges that even the banking sector has faced using the microfinance model, many microfinance have collapsed, and there is a lot of issues regarding the collapse. And now the commercial banks are in the verge of passing a very serious situation when the federal government or when the Nigerian economy is moving to $1 trillion economy. And remember, the GDP size always give room for the type of financial institution to be operating in it.
Okay, $1 trillion economy. What do we need at this time to really get to that threshold? And besides that, recapitalization actually is, the central bank governor said, is banks must have to reach that particular, they must be recapitalized to be able to support a $1 trillion economy. But what do we need to get to the point of $1 trillion economy?
From one of your reports, the Minister of Budget has emphasized on prosperity. Once you are targeting prosperity for individuals, prosperity cannot be established when the financial discipline is not inculcated in the deposit money banks, because people's savings is playing a greater role in the financial stability of the banks. and not only that one, policy guidelines. There is need for the state to have a policy, an agenda, an economic agenda that will empower manufacturing, that will empower service sectors of the economy, that will also empower individuals who have potentials in investing in the industry. These are things that are necessary so far that you want to have a very sound financial system where you can achieve some economic goals and target looking at macroeconomic impediments. Macroeconomic impediments that has to do with even the central bank as monetary policy tools. You know, once you are not controlling inflation using macroeconomic tools, once you are not assessing the lifespan of different sectors of the economy, you will end up not achieving any target. This target that you have to achieve has to do with probably the stability in the financial system. This financial system stability requires a lot of instrument to be used. Instrument from the central bank, instrument from outside the bank, that is foreign direct investment. You cannot be calling investors to come and invest in power when you don't have the potentials of helping to source the fund necessary for the growth of power sector. Once you want people to come and invest in, for instance, in energy sector requires so much fund, and if these banks doesn't have that facility as a result of capital base of 20 billion, so how many banks can actually provide the large requirement based on the exchange rate policy that is prevailing in the economy? So there is need to recapitalize the bank, provide incentives where a lot of banks can make.
But the president of Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria said most of these banks are ready. In fact, they have been recapitalizing over time within the banks themselves.
Yes, they have the experience, and that is the beauty of 2005 recapitalization. But not only that, some of the challenges the central bank face in trying to check money supply include branches that are spread all across the 774 local government in Nigeria. If you take the case of the South Korean experience, where in year 2000, they had only 4 banks. These 4 banks has over 4,500 branches. So when you now come back, there are banks that only have branches that is separate, not even in geopolitical zones. They are just around Lagos, Abuja, and probably Kano, Kaduna. So, but when banks are recapitalized, you are sure that the banks has the full insurance, has the full backing of the NDIC, whereby if you have whatever you are putting in that investment, whatever amount of money you want to source, you source it and you get it, and the last one, because this have challenging situation of trying to share a short-term development plan and long-term development plan. So if you are to sustain whatever policy that you are bringing to bring prosperity or to bring growth in the GDP, you require to have fully funded or fully sounded commercial banks that can withstand the test of time.
The feasibility of actually actualizing this $1 trillion economy is another thing, considering when you look at inflation and when you also look at the exchange rates, it's been, you know, not really in a good place, not a place that we would like to be, but we hope to be in. We hope that things will get better. When you look at that, what's the possibility of actually getting there in 6 years, I think? That's the target.
Yeah, you know, under medium-term expenditure framework, we are to operate and see a development plan looking at 3 years. These 3 years will give us a background on whether we are on the right course or not. Believing that if you check even the appropriation of the federal government, that is the fiscal side of target, is increasing. And it's
but when you also look at the growth targets, we are talking about
6%.
To 6%,
yes,
consistently.
Yeah,
but right now, at what level are we?
We are at very low level of 2.52, and
Yes.
this 2.52 is not encouraging. But when you check the transition that occur in 2003, and you see the attempt of the government to increase certain financial commitment in the economy. We are hoping that even if 6% growth rate is not achieved, but we are hoping that with consistency and proper coordination of the economy, not only at the federal strata, but looking at the state component, we will be achieving better GDP size. But what I think is more important fundamentally is to try as much as possible to reduce importation of PMS. This is what is taking much of that is bringing instability in our exchange rate, because once we are importing PMS, while you have the capacity in eliminating it in totality, that same proceed can be translated into more desired sector of the economy, especially when you look at the construction industry, where you need more roads, you need more bridges, and you need more transportation to take off, so that there is going to be efficiency in the distribution of goods and services that are produced. You know, the GDP is just a component of the value, of monetary value of what is taking place in an economy. So where you have that target and you have that plan on ground and you have consistency, the process of achieving it is desirable and it is visible. And however, looking at the policies on ground, priorities of the government, for 8 years, government was focusing on zero-based budget, which is a budget of priority, as advocated by Peter Peer. Now that government also has certain priorities in trying to see that we are self-sufficient in food production, we are devoid of importing PMS, we will become self-sufficient and become even exporter of refined product. Once Nigeria qualifies to be an exporter of PMS, that will be a good stand where we are sure that our micro, medium enterprises will be having better chances of operation, better chances of profit, and it will not generate more employment. And when you have more employment, you have more people with purchasing power increase. When you have more people with purchasing power increase, you have more productivity in the economy, and revenues that is going to the government will also be increasing. And if revenues of government is increasing under IGR scope, government will stop borrowing, because we cannot continue to borrow.
Liu, if I may come in, the CBN have confidence that our banks are resilient. The president of Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria is also confident that our banks are up to the task. I'm also confident that our banks will meet up the likely new recapitalization of the financial sector. But another thing here is recapitalization the only thing we need at this point in time? What about use of technology? What about efficiency in service delivery and things like that?
This recapitalization involves all. You know, the recapitalization in 2005 was prominent with paper profits of banks. People at AGM, they declare high profit, and where there was none. And now that, and also 2005, we witnessed a situation where, as a result of recapitalization, many bankers lose their job. But presently, recapitalization include a method of transaction, digitalization of the economy. CBN is emphasizing on being digital at consumer level. So if at consumer level you are digital, what of the investment? You know, transfer of technology is not only important for productivity, but it is also important for the prospect of an economy, whereas you can transact efficiently without much stress, but with high volume of profit. The banks, under this dispensation, are well prepared. They are mostly all digital. The only thing is that the capital that will sustain the digitalization process, that would withstand also the training of experts to be managing such investment. You know, economies like the one I quoted, the South Korean economy, have achieved a lot under their under their capitalization program because they involve the use of technological power, innovation, and also expertise. So Nigeria, we are not short of this expertise. The only thing is that capital has to be deployed. If it is deployed, staff, human resources must be deployed also to learn new techniques and to be more professional. Not only them, the banking services has to be extended to other localities where you have high potentials, where you have large market, especially in most of the local government in Nigeria, you find large potential to market, but with absence of banking facilities. This absence is not encouraging the growth and stability of our banking. But if
now, if the recapitalization happen and we get to see like more mergers and takeovers and possibly maybe services, don't you think services, banking services will not reach some will not reach grassroots, because you talked about there are communities that you likely,
Devoid of-
you might not, you might not see banks operating there and things like that. But by the time this recapitalization happens, which I believe microfinance banks will also be affected, how will the services trickle down to that particular part of the society?
it will trickle down when government also, based on the target growth rate of the economy, try as much to improve security situations. Most of these banks are operating because they are looking for profit. So, and many limitations that stop these banks from going into those localities is as a result of insecure environment. Let me give you an example of a first bank in Saminaka local government where the bank was attacked. And Saminaka is a potential business environment where a lot of activities are taking place. And if it is devoid of these banking facilities, definitely the people will be shortchanged and the market location has to change. They have to adopt other measures. But what we are looking at is the central bank is doing its best under broad macroeconomic adjustment, which they intend to do and which they are doing it with good intention.
Okay.
We just have to do that to make sure that the economy is moving as targeted by the government aspiration.
Thank you very much, Ishu Ali. It's always been a pleasure having you on the program.
I'm grateful, thank you.
Now moving on. And out of currency, dollar on back food as traders look to Federal Reserve for cut timing clues. Let's now see how much is the naira exchange in for other currencies. Well, this is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns Thursday at 9:30 a.m. I'm Musa Bakari. Enjoy the rest of your day.